My family could set battlefields on fire. I could not even light a candle. That was all it took for them to throw me away. No trial, no mercy, no second chance. Just one crystal that refused to glow. One room full of nobles laughing. And one older brother holding a flame in front of my face, like I was not even human. He said, "Leon, you were born into the greatest fire magic family in the kingdom." Then he smiled, "And yet even this tiny flame is beyond you." The hall exploded with laughter. That was the day the Elkline family erased me. But before this world knew me as Leon Elkline, the magicless disgrace, I had another name. Rensiki, 38 years old, a salaryman from another world. In that life, I was not a hero. I was not a genius. I was not chosen by anyone. I was the man who stayed late after everyone else went home. The man who fixed other people's mistakes. The man whose boss stole his results and still called him useless. Every day taught me the same lesson. Effort does not always win. Position does. The people above you do not need to be smarter. They only need the authority to take what you built. The night I died, I was walking across a wet intersection with a book under my arm. It was not a fantasy novel. It was a history book. A book about the weapons and industries that changed human civilization. Not because I loved war, I did not. What I loved was the reversal. The moment a knight realizes his noble blood cannot stop a common soldier. The moment a castle wall becomes useless because someone invented a better way to reach it. The moment history stops belonging only to the people born at the top. I remember thinking, if I ever stood at a turning point like that, I would not waste it. Then a truck hit me. White light swallowed the street. The book flew from my hand. My body hit the ground. And I died. When I opened my eyes again, I was a baby in a world of magic. My new name was Leon Elkline, second son of the Elkline family, one of the strongest fire magic bloodlines in the kingdom. In this world, magic circuits were everything. A child with many circuits became a noble. A child with a strong attribute could command soldiers. A family with ancient magic blood could sit beside the throne. And people without magic. They worked, they obeyed, they prayed the nobles would protect them. It was my old company all over again. Only this time the hierarchy had flames, spells, and a holy-looking excuse. 15 years passed. I learned the language, I learned the politics, I learned the rules of noble society. And in secret I drew diagrams. Iron tubes, pressure chambers, wheels, simple firing mechanisms, defensive layouts, supply lines. The servants thought I was strange. My tutors called it a waste of time. My brother Cedric laughed whenever he saw the drawings. "Leon, you keep staring at iron because fire refuses to answer you." I said nothing. I was waiting for the awakening ceremony. The great hall was filled with relatives, academy envoys, and nobles who had come to judge the next generation of the Elkline house. In the center stood a crystal taller than a man. It measured a person's magic circuits and attributes. Cedric went first. The moment he touched the crystal, crimson fire roared inside it. Heat rolled across the hall. The curtains snapped in the rising air. The nobles cheered. High-grade fire attribute, Royal Academy recommendation, future head of the Elkline family. Cedric turned and looked at me. He did not need to say anything. His smile said enough. Then my name was called. I walked to the crystal, placed my hand on it. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Nothing. No fire, no wind, no water, no earth, no lightning. The examiner changed crystals. Still nothing. He checked the reading again. His face turned pale. Magic circuits almost non-existent. A gray line appeared in the crystal. Thin, broken, barely alive. The hall went silent. Then someone laughed. Another noble joined in. Then another. An attribute-less Elkline. Worse than a commoner. The bloodline has been contaminated. Cedric stepped in front of me. A perfect flame floated above his palm. Small, beautiful, cruel. He held it near my face. "Can you feel that, little brother?" The heat touched my skin. "This is the smallest flame I can make." He leaned closer. "And even this is above you." That night my family held a meeting. I was not invited. By sunrise, the decision was made. I was disowned, removed from the main family, sent to a dying border territory the house no longer wanted. Gray ironed, a poor mining region with exhausted tunnels, empty storehouses, monster attacks, and a debt large enough to bury the land for generations. On paper, I was being made lord. In truth, I was being thrown into a grave with a title nailed to the top. No one came to see me off. The carriage left the capital under a gray sky. I watched the city disappear behind me. In my first life, I was used and erased by office politics. In my second, I was thrown away by bloodline politics. Different world, same structure. Then a voice sounded inside my head. Host magic attribute, 0. Magic circuit output, negligible. Foreign scientific knowledge detected. Science research system activated. A transparent screen appeared before my eyes. I stared at it. The system did not give me fireballs. It did not give me sword skills. It did not drop completed weapons from the sky. It gave me something more dangerous. Observation support, research tasks, measurement tools, development paths. If I observed fire magic, I could study heat, pressure, and combustion. If I observed wind magic, I could study air resistance and trajectory. If I observed earth magic, I could study minerals, alloys, and armor. If I observed lightning magic, I could study signals and remote control. If I observed light magic, I could study distance, aiming, and detection. Magic was not a miracle, it was a phenomenon. And if a phenomenon could be observed, it could be understood. I started laughing inside that carriage. The driver looked terrified. I did not blame him. Because for the first time since I had been born into this world, I felt alive. If this kingdom worshipped magic as a sacred privilege, then I would do the one thing no noble wanted. I would take magic apart. Gray iron looked worse than the reports. The manor roof was cracked, the walls were damp, the storehouse was almost empty. The village gates were patched with old timber. About 30 soldiers remained. Most had rusted armor and tired eyes. No one cheered when I arrived. They had seen nobles before. Nobles promised help, then they collected taxes and left. At the gate stood a young woman in polished but old armor. Silver hair tied behind her head. A sword at her side. Eyes that had stopped expecting miracles. Alicia Nord, deputy captain of the Gray Iron Guard. She bowed because duty required it. Her voice stayed cold.
Lord Leon, this territory has no money, no grain, and no proper mage.
She looked me straight in the eyes.
If you were sent here because your family wanted to get rid of you, then write to the capital and beg for help now. This land cannot survive a noble playing lord.
The soldiers stiffened. I did not punish her. She was right. So I asked one question.
What is the most immediate threat?
Alicia answered without hesitation.
Blackhorn wolves. Their hide resists ordinary blades. Without fire magic, we cannot stop a large pack. If they attack again, one of the villages will fall.
That night the alarm bell rang. The wolves came. I ran to the wall with Alicia. Dark shapes poured out of the forest. Huge black beasts with horns like broken daggers and jaws wide enough to take off a man's arm. The soldiers stabbed with spears. The blades barely cut. Alicia killed one with a clean strike, but 3 more leapt over its body. A traveling low-level fire mage, shaking with fear, shouted a spell. A small fireball flew into the dirt and exploded. Flame, smoke, hot air, shock. The wolves stopped for half a breath. Everyone else saw magic. I saw data. The way the heat expanded, the way the smoke moved, the way the pressure forced the beasts back. The grass that burned, the dirt that did not. The system spoke. Fire magic observed. Heat expansion and shock behavior recorded. Basic thermal research unlocked. I looked at the scorched ground. To the nobles, fire magic was proof of divine blood. To me, it was the first open door. The next morning, I went to the forge. The blacksmith was a young woman named Mina Farr. Her father had died years earlier, and she had kept his workshop alive alone. I placed a set of drawings on her workbench. She frowned. These are not magic tools.
No.
Iron tubes, reinforced chambers, measuring stands.
Yes.
She looked at me like I had just confessed to madness. What are you trying to make?
A way for people without magic to survive.
Mina stared at the drawings, then at me. So the rumors were true. The new lord really is broken. I almost laughed.
Maybe, but can you build them?
She looked at the diagrams again. Her expression changed. A craftsman had seen a challenge. Over the next weeks, gray iron became my laboratory. Old miner Oscar showed me the abandoned tunnels. The previous lord had called them worthless because they contained almost no magic crystals. But I found iron ore, coal, sulfurous stone, limestone, fire clay. To a magic noble trash. To me, the bones of industry. I selected 10 people with no magic. A farmer, a hunter's son, a miner's apprentice, 2 woodcutters, a stable boy. People no noble army would ever value. Alicia opposed me.
They are not soldiers.
Then we train them.
They will freeze when monsters charge.
Then they train until their bodies move before fear takes over.
Alicia's eyes narrowed.
And if your experiment kills them?
That question hit harder than she knew, because I was not blind. The tools I wanted to build could protect the weak. They could also become a new way to crush them.
Then I become the same kind of monster as the nobles who threw me away.
Alicia said nothing after that. Training began. Stand in line, raise the weapon, wait for the command. Fire, step back, reload, let the next line move forward. Again, again, again. It was not heroic, it was boring, it was exhausting. And it was exactly why it worked. The first prototypes were terrible. Too heavy, too slow, too much smoke. One test burst apart and sent iron fragments across the room. A shard cut my cheek. Mina went pale. Lord Leon, if you put this into a soldier's hands, it might kill him before it kills a monster. I wiped the blood away.
Then we fail here until it stops failing there.
That night, Mina stayed in the forge long after everyone left. I found her staring at the cracked iron tube. My father died making weapons for nobles. Her voice was low. He believed a good tool protected the person holding it. But nobles only cared whether it made them stronger. She turned to me. If we build this, I decide the safety standard. No soldier gets a weapon I would be afraid to hold myself. I nodded.
Then gray iron has its first arms engineer.
Weeks later, the system message appeared. Basic combustion research complete. Prototype fire lance operation unlocked. The weapon was ugly, the barrel smoked. The kick nearly knocked a man over. But it was real. And when the Blackhorn wolves returned, the village had no fire mage left. The people gathered behind the wall. Some prayed, some cried. Alicia drew her sword. I raised my hand.
Fire squad forward.
10 commoners stepped onto the wall. Their hands shook, their legs shook. But they did not run. The wolves charged.
Leon, they are too close.
I kept my hand raised, not yet. The lead wolf crossed the white marker stone.
Fire.
Thunder cracked across the night. Smoke swallowed the wall. The lead wolf slammed into the ground and did not rise. For 1 second, no one moved. No chant, no magic circle, no noble blood. Just iron, fire, training, and 10 terrified people who had refused to stay helpless.
Second line fire.
Another wolf fell.
Third line fire.
The pack broke. The monsters fled back into the forest. A young soldier named Tom dropped to his knees. His mother rushed from behind the wall and threw her arms around him. "You saved us." Tom stared at his own hands. For the first time, he smiled like someone who had been allowed to exist. Alicia looked at me through the smoke.
What kind of magic is this?
I looked toward the dark forest.
It is not magic.
Then I saw a tiny spell light vanish on a distant hill. A scout familiar. Someone had watched everything. Probably the neighboring Marquis Gran. Gray Iron's secret was out. I looked at the smoking fire lances in the commoners' hands. That sound had not just killed a monster. It had cracked the age of magic. And the nobles had heard it. The morning after the wolf attack, Gray Iron did not celebrate. No feast. No parade. No noble speech under a clean banner. We were too poor for that. But every face in the territory had changed. Yesterday, the people had waited for a mage to save them. Yesterday, when monsters came, they ran or prayed. Now they had seen something impossible. A farmer's son with no magic had stopped a beast that ordinary soldiers could not cut. That hope was dangerous. Hope that depends on one miracle dies quickly. Hope built into a system becomes power. So I called everyone to the manor. Alicia, Mina, Oscar the old miner, the village elders, the fire squad, every craftsman who still had tools worth using. I spread a map over the table. Today, Gray Iron stops being a dying border village. The room went silent. I pointed to the mountain. The miners reopened the tunnels. Then the forge. Mina's workshop becomes the main production yard. Then the road. We repair transport routes first. A weapon that cannot reach the wall is useless. Then the empty granary. Supplies will be split across multiple storehouses. One fire will never starve the territory again. The elders looked confused. They had expected taxes, maybe forced labor, maybe another noble demand. Not a plan. Mina crossed her arms. Lord Leon, every craftsman works differently. If you tell everyone to make identical parts, quality will drop. Only at first. And if the parts fail, then we record why, then we fix the pattern. She frowned. That sounds slow. It is slow. I looked around the room. But it means no single genius can hold the territory hostage. If one craftsman dies, another can repair the part. If one workshop burns, another can continue the work. Mina looked down at the map. Her father had been a master craftsman. When he died, half the workshop knowledge almost died with him. Finally, she nodded. I will write the standards. Then Alicia spoke. And I will write the discipline. Her voice cut through the room like steel. A fire lance does not make a coward brave. A line that breaks will kill the men standing beside it. If commoners are to carry this power, they will train harder than knights. That was the beginning of Grey Iron's new army. Not noble knights, not academy mages. Miners, farmers, hunters, woodcutters, and boys who had once believed their only job was to die quietly. Alicia trained them until their shoulders bruised. Raise, hold, wait. Do not fire because you are scared. Fire because the command was given. Tom, the boy who had saved his mother, became the most stubborn of them all. One night, Alicia found him still practicing after sunset. Enough, she said, go home. Tom did not lower the weapon. If I stop now, I will remember how afraid I was. You think trained soldiers are not afraid. He hesitated. Alicia stepped closer. Fear is not failure. Running from the line is failure. Tom swallowed. Then I will not run. From that day on, Alicia stopped looking at the commoners like temporary militia. She began training them like soldiers. Meanwhile, I studied the next magic. Wind. Marquis Grand's captured scout was arrogant enough to help by accident. He sneered at me as he demonstrated a wind blade under guard. No matter how long you stare, Magicless trash cannot command the wind. I do not need to command it. The blade flew, cut the wooden target, bent slightly in the smoke, lost force at distance. I watched the air move. I measured the angle. I recorded the drop. The system answered. Wind magic observed. Air resistance and trajectory deviation recorded. Basic ballistic calculation unlocked. Spiral stabilization research available. A better fire lance was possible. Longer range. Cleaner aim. Enough accuracy to reach a mage before his spell could reach us. I gave Mina the new drawings. She stared at them for a long time. Then she said, "You hate me." "I do not." "You drew a spiral groove inside the barrel." "Yes. We do not have a tool precise enough to cut this." "Then we build the tool. That tool needs harder steel. Then we improve the furnace. The furnace needs better fire brick. Then we mine better clay." Mina covered her face. "Every one of your inventions gives birth to 5 more problems. That is technology." She lowered her hands and gave me a tired smile. "I hate technology, but she built it. Not quickly, not cleanly. We failed. We changed the design. We failed again. Then one evening, the first stabilized fire lance hit a target at a distance no fire mage in gray iron could reach. The soldiers went silent. Alicia stared at the target. "That changes everything." "No," I said. I looked toward the west road. "It forces everyone else to change." Marquis Grand changed first. His tax officer arrived 3 days later in a polished magic carriage, escorted by magic knights. Their armor carried earth protection runes. Their boots carried wind acceleration spells. Their blades glowed with fire. They looked like the future of war. They were actually the past, dressed in expensive metal. The tax officer read the order in front of the manor. Gray Iron has failed to repay its debts. In 3 months, all mining rights will transfer to Marquis Grand. Mina's hands tightened into fists. The officer continued. Furthermore, this territory is suspected of producing unlawful weapons. All iron tubes, powders, research notes, and prototypes are to be surrendered for inspection. Alicia reached for her sword. I raised a hand to stop her. "Not yet." The tax officer smiled. "Do not make this difficult, Lord Leon. Your toys are not worth dying over." I smiled back. "Then you will not mind watching a demonstration." We brought them to the training field. The fire squad formed 3 lines. Raise, fire, step back, next line forward. Thunder rolled again and again. Wooden targets shattered. The magic knight stopped smiling. Then I placed an old knight's breastplate on the field. It had a basic earth protection spell etched into it. The tax officer laughed nervously. "That armor was made for training. Still, it can stop arrows." "Good." I looked at Tom. "Fire." The shot punched through the plate. The field went silent. One knight whispered. It pierced the protection rune. The tax officer left before sunset. He took nothing, but fear travels faster than carriages. 3 nights later, the arsenal was attacked. The raiders wore bandit masks. Their movements were too clean. Their spells too coordinated. Fire to burn the storehouse. Wind to cross the wall. Earth to break the door. Marquis Gran had stopped pretending. Unfortunately for him, he attacked the wrong building. The visible forge was bait. The true records were copied. The true stores were split. The true weapons were never kept in one place. The alarm bells rang. Magic lamps flooded the yard with white light. From both sides, fire squads stepped out. Behind the raiders, Alicia's guard closed the gate. Their captain shouted, "Fire barrier!" A red wall of magic rose in front of them. A normal attack would have struck the barrier and failed. I did not aim at the barrier. Target the men holding it. The fire squads adjusted. Shots cracked. One barrier mage fell. Then another. The red wall flickered and vanished. The raiders froze. They had not been overpowered. They had been understood. Alicia put her blade to the captain's throat. Inside his coat, we found Marquis Gran's seal. There was no avoiding war now. 1 week later, his army appeared on the horizon. 300 magic infantry, 50 magic knights, fire mages, earth barrier casters, wind scouts. Against them, Grey Iron had fewer than 100 trained fire lance soldiers, 1 experimental cannon, a handful of cavalry, and a territory that still smelled more like coal smoke than confidence. The villagers were terrified. So was I. A leader who says he feels nothing is either lying or insane. But fear can be measured too. It tells you where the system might break. It tells you where people need support. It tells you what must be protected first. I drew the battlefield myself. Ditches, soft ground, false banners, hidden lanes, crossing lines of fire, withdraw paths, a cannon position that could move after each shot. Alicia studied the map. This is not a fortress. No, it is a trap shaped like a battlefield. Yes. Mina entered the room covered in soot. Dark circles hung under her eyes. Behind her, workers rolled in a heavy iron cannon. Ugly, rough, difficult to move. Beautiful. Mina placed a hand on the barrel. If this thing bursts, I will haunt you. If it bursts, I will deserve it. She looked away. Do not make me build weapons for a massacre, Leon. I answered honestly. I am trying to build weapons that make massacres too expensive to start. The next morning, Marquis Gran's army stopped before Grey Iron. His voice boomed through a spell. Magicless rebel, surrender your mines and forbidden weapons. Refuse and this village burns. The people behind the wall trembled. I stepped onto the platform. This territory was supposed to die quietly. I looked at the fire squads, the miners, the smiths, the mothers holding children behind the barricades. But quiet people can still learn to stand. Marquis Gran laughed. Scrap iron cannot defeat magic. I raised my hand. Cannon crew. Mina inhaled. Alicia gripped her sword. The soldiers braced. I dropped my hand. Fire. The cannon roared. The shells struck the ground before the enemy front line. Earthshield soldiers flew backward. The formation broke. Mages stopped chanting. The enemy had just learned something terrible. Grey Iron could strike from beyond their spell range. Marquis Gran ordered a night charge. 50 magic knights surged forward. Wind runes flashed under their boots. Earth armor glowed across their chests. Fire ran along their blades. It was beautiful. Then the ground betrayed them. Hidden soft soil swallowed speed. Narrow lanes forced them together. False cover pulled them into crossing fire. First squad left. Shots cracked. Second squad right. More shots. Cannon's second mark. The roar split the field. The charge broke before it reached the wall. Fire mages tried to answer with huge fireballs. They burned false positions. Straw figures, empty shields, flags with no soldiers behind them. By the time they realized the real squads had moved, Tom's unit had taken their flank. Target the mages. The enemy magic line collapsed. By sunset, Marquis Gran's army was in retreat. The Marquis himself was captured in a ditch he had never believed mattered. After the battle, Tom sat in the mud and cried. His mother found him there. This time, she did not ask if he was alive. She said, "You came back standing." Alicia watched them. For the first time since I met her, her face softened. I spent my life believing only knights could protect people. She looked at the fire lances stacked beside the wall. Maybe the world was smaller than I thought. A few weeks later, a letter arrived from the capital. Royal Magic Academy. New tactics exhibition. Grey Iron's weapons were invited for demonstration. The signatures made Mina curse under her breath. The Elkline Maine family. And my brother Cedric. Alicia read the letter and frowned. It is a trap. Mina nodded. They want to humiliate you in public. I folded the letter. Good. They stared at me. I smiled. If they built a stage, it would be rude not to use it. The Royal Magic Academy looked like a place designed to make ordinary people feel small. White towers, floating spell circles, golden uniforms, marble courtyards clean enough to reflect the sky. When I entered with 30 gray iron soldiers, laughter followed us like flies. Look, it is the Magicless Lord. Did he bring farmers to fight mages? Those iron tubes worked on border monsters. How charming. I kept walking. I had heard that tone before. In my old life, it came from managers who never built anything. In this life, it came from nobles who never questioned why the world obeyed them. Words would not change them. Results might. Cedric stood at the center of the exhibition field. My older brother. High-grade fire attribute. Academy champion. The pride of Elkline. He smiled as if he had already won. Leon, I heard you have become famous in the dirt. The nobles laughed. Cedric spread his arms. But this is the capital. No trenches, no forest monsters, no frightened peasants cheering for smoke and noise. His flame rose behind him like a banner. Here you will face real magic. The exhibition had 3 parts. Power, accuracy, battle simulation. Cedric went first in the power test. He lifted one hand. A lance of fire formed above his palm. It shot across the field and punched through a stone wall. The academy roared with applause. Then my cannon crew rolled forward. No glowing circle, no chant, no noble bloodline. Just a trained crew moving as one. Fire. The cannon blast shook the field. The stone wall did not get pierced. It disappeared into broken chunks. The applause died. In the accuracy test, academy students attacked moving magic dolls. Their spells were elegant, fast, colorful, but each spell belonged to one caster. One mind, one talent. Gray Iron Squad moved differently. One team blocked the doll's path. One team forced it sideways. One team fired where it would be, not where it was. The dolls stopped one by one. Not because any soldier was a genius. Because 30 ordinary people had learned to think as one machine. Cedric's smile grew thin. Then came the battle simulation. No trenches. No prepared ditches. No hidden artillery pits. A clean academy arena. Cedric looked pleased. You have nowhere to hide this time. He brought 10 elite students and 5 academy knights. Earth-protected armor. Wind-boosted movement. Fire-etched blades. I brought my 30 soldiers. Cedric raised his voice so the stands could hear. Today I will prove that Gray Iron's victory was not power. It was a trick. The nobles clapped. I looked around the arena. Stone pillars. Wall shadows. Wind direction. Distance to the stands. The angle of the sun. The way Cedric's students clustered behind him because they trusted his fire too much. A battlefield without traps does not exist. Only commanders who cannot see them. The signal rang. Cedric attacked first. A wall of flame rolled forward. Magic knights split left and right with wind acceleration. Fireballs crossed overhead. It was overwhelming. It was also wasteful. Smoke. Gray Iron soldiers threw smoke pots. White fog spread low across the arena. Scatter by pairs. The formation broke apart. Not in panic. By design. Cedric's flame wall burned empty ground. His knights charged false banners. His students fired at shadows. He shouted, "Stop running, Leon." His voice cracked. You cannot win unless you hide behind tricks. I answered from the smoke. A fair duel is a luxury invented by people who expect to win. 3 signals sounded. Shots struck from different angles. Training rounds hit 2 knights. The academy judges called them out. Cedric roared and gathered a larger spell. I had seen that spell before. Not the exact version, but the pattern. Fire gathers at the shoulder first. The circle expands twice. Then the heat condenses before release. Powerful, slow, predictable. Tom's squad was already in position. Now, 3 training rounds hit Cedric's chest armor before the spell completed. The great fire collapsed into sparks. Cedric fell backward onto the sand. The arena went silent. For a moment, all I heard was the wind moving through the smoke. Cedric pushed himself up on one elbow. His eyes were wide. No, He looked at Tom, at the soldiers, at me. No, I am high-grade fire. I am the heir of Elkline. His voice dropped into something colder than anger. Why am I on the ground? I walked toward him. The nobles leaned forward. They expected revenge. A speech. Maybe a brother's humiliation paid back in public. I could have done it. Part of me wanted to. The boy who had been laughed out of the hall wanted Cedric to feel every second of it. But if I used power only to make someone kneel, then what had changed? I stopped in front of him. You did not lose to me alone. Cedric clenched his teeth. You lost to the miner who dug the ore, the smith who improved the barrel, the soldiers who trained until fear could not break the line. I looked at the stands, and you lost to the idea that magic should be studied, not worshipped. No one laughed this time. That silence was heavier than applause. By evening, every noble in the capital understood the danger. Gray Iron's victory was not luck. It was not a border trick. It was not a single magicless boy with a strange toy. It was a new system of power. And systems spread. The kingdom reacted exactly as frightened people with authority always react. They tried to make the future illegal. The Royal Council declared gray iron technology dangerous. The church called magic analysis an insult to divine mystery. Several great houses demanded that all fire lances be confiscated. Then came the royal order. Stop all weapon production. Submit all research notes. Disband the commoner fire squads. Leon Elkline must return to the capital for questioning. I read the order in the manor hall. Everyone watched me. Alicia's hand was on her sword. Mina looked pale. Tom stood like a soldier, but his jaw was tight. I held the royal order over a lamp. The paper caught fire. The seal melted. No one spoke. I said, gray iron was given to me because they thought it was worthless. The flames crawled up the page. They were wrong. The ash fell onto the table. We will not return to being helpless. That night, I found Mina outside the workshop. She was staring at the dark road to the capital. You know what happens next, she said. Yes. They will not send one marquis this time. No. They will send the kingdom. I looked at the forge smoke rising into the stars. Then we prepare for a kingdom. Mina hugged herself. And if our weapons become the thing every future tyrant wants. I did not answer quickly, because she was right to fear it. Science is not kindness. Technology is not justice. A tool can protect a village or burn one. I said, then we build laws, schools, and soldiers who know why they carry them. Mina looked at me. That sounds harder than building cannons. It is. For 6 months, gray iron changed faster than any noble report could follow. We studied lightning magic and built simple signal lines. We studied light magic and improved range-finding. We studied earth magic and tested layered armor. We studied wind magic and built fantasy rockets that carried spell-disrupting charges instead of ordinary shells. I banned careless experiments near homes. I banned hoarding of weapons by private nobles. I banned production records from being kept by one person. If gray iron became a new kind of tyranny, then my victory meant nothing. So we built more than weapons. We built procedure, schools, accountability, a chain of command Alicia could enforce even against me. Still, the kingdom did not wait forever. At the end of the 6th month, the Western Watchtower sent a signal. Large army approaching. Royal banners, flying units, mage corps, siege golems, and above them all, a shadow in the clouds. The ancient magic battleship. The kingdom had brought its god. The ancient magic battleship appeared at dawn. At first, it looked like a mountain floating above the horizon. Then the sun touched its hull. Gold runes burned across black metal. A crystal furnace glowed beneath its center. 6 magic sails opened like wings. Every person on the wall stopped breathing. Children hid behind their mothers. Soldiers lowered their weapons without realizing it. Even Alicia went still. The ship was not just a weapon. It was a symbol. For centuries, every rebellion, every border lord, every city that forgot its place had looked up at that shadow and remembered the truth of the kingdom. Magic rules the sky. Magic rules the land. Magic rules you. The royal army marched beneath it. Mage battalions, magic knights, barrier priests, flying soldiers, siege golems, supply wagons marked with royal seals. And at the center rode a man I had not expected. Archmage Voss. Unlike Marquis Gran, he did not laugh at gray iron. Unlike the Academy nobles, he did not call our work toys. He looked at our walls, our smoke stacks, our signal towers, and our moving armor wagons. Then he said through an amplification spell, "Leon Elkline, I understand what you are." The battlefield went quiet. "You are not a rebel. Rebels can be executed." His voice hardened. "You are a method, and methods must be erased before they spread." For the first time, an enemy had said the truth out loud. The Royal Army was not here because gray iron was strong. It was here because gray iron could be copied. Alicia stood before our soldiers. Her armor was scratched. Her silver hair was tied tight. Her voice carried without magic. "Listen to me." The commoner soldiers raised their heads. "You are not nobles. You are not chosen. Most of you were told your whole lives that your job was to run, hide, or die." She drew her sword. "But this wall still stands because of your hands. The mines, the roads, the fire lances, the armor wagons, the signal lines. None of it was made by birthright." Tom stood in the front rank. His hands did not shake this time. Alicia pointed her blade toward the Royal Army. "If fear comes, let it come. Hold the line anyway." The first attack came from the air. Flying mages swept down with wind magic, fire forming in their hands. Before they could release it, the watchtower flashed a signal. Direction, height, speed, number. The message ran through copper lines to the command post. Sky batteries adjust. Fantasy rockets lifted from angled frames. They did not chase the flying mages like perfect guided weapons. They burst in predicted zones, filling the sky with shock and spell static. The flying formation scattered. Fireballs fell harmlessly into open ground. The soldiers cheered. Then the battleship fired. A white beam cut down from the clouds. One of our outer earthworks vanished. Not broke, not burned, vanished. The cheer died instantly. A second beam struck the hill battery. The cannon position exploded. Men were thrown into the air. My stomach turned cold. This was not like Marquis Gran. This was not like Cedric. The battleship could delete our defenses faster than we could rebuild them. Archmage Voss knew it. He sent the magic knights next. They did not charge blindly. They moved behind layered barriers. Flying mages marked our hidden positions from above. Earth casters hardened the ground ahead of them, so our old traps would not work. Voss had studied us. The first armor wagon rolled forward to block them. Fire blades struck its plates and scattered. The wagon's small cannon fired. For a moment we held. Then the battleship beam hit the road behind it. The ground collapsed. The armor wagon sank halfway into the broken earth. Its crew was trapped. Tom saw it. His squad moved without orders. Alicia shouted, "Tom, hold position." But he was already running through smoke with 3 soldiers. They hooked chains to the wagon, while fireballs burst around them. One man fell. Another took his place. Tom screamed, "Pull!" The wagon lurched free just as a magic knight reached them. Alicia intercepted him. Steel met fire. She fought like a wall that had learned to move. At the command post, reports came too fast. North signal line cut. Hill battery destroyed. Rocket frame 3 jammed. Enemy barriers advancing. Battleship charging again. For the first time since gray iron's rise, the system offered no miracle. Only data. Beam interval. Barrier rotation. Crystal furnace heat cycle. Flight stabilization points. The ship was not divine. It was a machine made of magic. And every machine has stress. Every spell has timing. Every shield has a source. We had one answer left. The Skybreaker. It was not a modern missile. Not the kind from my old world. Gray iron could never build that from scratch. The Skybreaker was something stranger. A fantasy ballistic lance. An iron body launched by chemical force. Stabilized by wind magic research. And tipped with a spell-disrupting crystal array designed from light and lightning observations. It could not destroy a city. It could not be mass-produced. It could not even be aimed twice. One launch, one target, one chance. The target was not the battleship's hull. It was the exposed amplification tower beneath its main cannon. Break that, and the ship could no longer fire the white beam. Fail, and gray iron would be erased. Mina stood beside the launcher. Her hands were black with soot. For the first time since I had known her, she looked truly afraid. "Leon," she said, "if this works, every king in the world will want one." "I know. And if this fails, everyone here dies." "I know." Her eyes were wet with anger. "Then tell me this is worth it." I looked at the wall, at Tom dragging a wounded soldier behind cover, at Alicia holding the line with blood on her sleeve. at Oscar's miners carrying ammunition through smoke, at villagers pulling children toward the shelters. I said, "No weapon is worth worshipping." Mina stared at me. "But people are worth protecting from people who worship power." She closed her eyes. Then she nodded. "Launch crew ready." The battleship turned. Its main cannon opened like a white eye. Observation shouted from the tower. "Main beam charging. Amplification tower exposed." I raised my hand. Then every signal lamp on the launch frame went dark. Nothing happened. Mina froze. The ignition line had failed. The battleship's light grew brighter. Someone screamed from the wall. For one terrible second, all my planning, all my speeches, all my science, all my pride became useless. Because a single line had broken. Mina threw herself under the frame. "Mina!" She ignored me. Sparks burst around her hands as she ripped open the casing. "This is my standard," she shouted. "No soldier dies because my machine refuses to work." Alicia saw what was happening from the front line. She raised her sword. "All units cover the launcher." The fire squads shifted. Armor wagons moved. Miners dragged shield plates into position. They were not protecting a weapon. They were protecting the one chance to keep their homes alive. The battleship finished charging. The white beam began to form. Mina slammed the final connector into place. The signal lamps came alive. "Ready," she screamed. I dropped my hand. "Launch." The ground shook. The skybreaker rose with a roar that drowned the battlefield. Every face turned upward. Nobles, commoners, mages, soldiers, even Archmage Voss. It climbed through smoke and fire. Not like a spell, not like a dragon, like the will of every ordinary hand that had built it. The battleship's barrier flared. The skybreaker struck the edge and bent. For one heartbeat, I thought it would fail. Then the spell-disrupting crystal ignited. The barrier cracked. The lance punched through and hit the amplification tower. White light exploded across the sky. The battleship's main cannon shattered. Runes burst along the hull. The floating fortress tilted, bleeding magic from its broken core. It did not fall onto the city. It did not explode into a massacre. It dropped slowly, crippled, forced down by emergency spells. The symbol of royal magic had been grounded. The battlefield went silent. Then the royal banners lowered. Archmage Voss looked up at the damaged ship. For the first time, his face showed grief. Not because he had lost, because he understood the age he had served was over. After the surrender, I did not march on the capital. I did not demand a crown. I did not ask for Cedric's head. I did not turn the skybreaker toward the royal palace. That was the line. If I crossed it, gray iron would become exactly what it had defeated. My demands were three: gray iron self-rule, the right of commoners to study engineering and magic theory, the right of non-mages to serve in defense forces under public law, not noble ownership. The council hated it. The church called it humiliation. The great houses called it the end of order. They were almost right. It was the end of their order. Months later, gray iron was no longer a forgotten border territory. Smokestacks rose beside the mountains. Signal towers linked villages. The forge became an engineering school. Children learned arithmetic beside basic spell theory. Miners taught geology. Mages learned measurement. Soldiers learned not only how to fire, but when not to. Mina became the kingdom's first chief engineer. Alicia rebuilt the guard into a mixed force of knights, mages, and commoner soldiers. Tom trained new recruits and hated being called a hero. Oscar taught young miners how to read stone before greed destroyed it. And Cedric came once. He walked through the engineering school in silence. He watched students measure a controlled flame instead of bowing to it. At last, he said, "We thought knowing magic meant owning it." I looked at the children arguing over numbers and spell diagrams. "No," I said. "Knowing something means it no longer belongs only to the people who hide it." At sunset, I stood on the hill above gray iron. Once, this place had been my exile, a grave with a title. Now roads stretched through the valley. Workshops rang with metal. Soldiers drilled beside engineers. Farmers sold grain without begging nobles for protection. The system screen appeared one final time. Primary objective complete. Magicless civilization route established. Future development will proceed through local research. I smiled. In my first life, I was erased by people above me. In this life, I was discarded because I had no magic. But the discarded built a future. Not with miracles. Not with bloodline. Not with one chosen hero. With observation. With labor. With discipline. with people who refuse to stay small. I closed my research journal. This is where it begins. Then a warning flashed at the edge of the system screen. Large-scale unknown mana signature detected beyond the Western Ocean. Pattern does not match known kingdom magic. New research target confirmed. I looked toward the Dark Sea. The kingdom's war was over. But this world still had mysteries. And as long as magic calls itself untouchable, science will keep reaching for it.